For centuries in France, a public execution was not treated as a quiet, solemn occasion of judicial justice, but rather as the ultimate spectator event, drawing energetic crowds that rivaled modern sporting events, holiday parades, and festival tailgates. Long before digital entertainment or mass media existed, Parisians actively lived for the drama of the scaffold, packing city squares hours in advance to drink, shout, and cheer as the state exercised its absolute power in the most graphic way imaginable. To truly understand the culture around the guillotine, one must realize that public death was transformed into a bizarre form of community entertainment that brought together people from every walk of life. While the guillotine remained France's official method of capital punishment well into the late 20th century, ending only on September 10, 1977, the era of public viewings came to a sudden and dramatic halt nearly 4 decades earlier. On June 17, 1939, a convicted serial killer named Eugene Weidmann was led out to face the blade outside the Saint-Pierre prison in Versailles. What was supposed to be a stern display of state authority quickly devolved into absolute chaos as the crowd grew wild, hooting, whistling, and celebrating as if at a street party. Unbeknownst to authorities, someone in a nearby window even secretly filmed the entire execution with a movie camera. Horrified by the public's vulgar behavior and the unauthorized recordings circulating in newsreels, the French government officially banned public executions forever, moving all future operations strictly behind prison walls. Moving executions out of the public eye solved 2 major administrative nightmares for French officials. It eliminated the massive logistical headache of setting up and tearing down the guillotine on public streets, which often led to mechanical glitches, bent tracks, or misaligned blades from overworked prison staff acting like carnival workers. And it finally put an end to the wildly rowdy street crowds that disrupted public order. Before the indoor ban, an announcement of an upcoming execution triggered absolute pandemonium in the surrounding neighborhood. Nearby taverns filled to capacity with spectators pre-gaming the event. Property owners rented out window seats to wealthy patrons for bird's-eye views, and children climbed high into nearby tree branches just to catch a glimpse over the heads of the crowd. By the late 1930s, execution fans had developed a violent reputation, much like modern football hooligans, forcing prison staff to assemble the guillotine in the dead of night, only for bloodthirsty crowds to still magically gather before sunrise. To those who witnessed it, the guillotine was an imposing and menacing piece of engineering, consisting of 2 tall, upright wooden beams forming a narrow vertical track that housed a heavy, angled steel blade weighted with lead. Designed during the Enlightenment to be swift, clean, and democratic, the machine operated purely on gravity, so that when released, the blade plummeted instantly, severing the neck in a fraction of a second into a woven basket lined with sawdust to absorb fluids before the body was quickly rolled into a plain wooden casket for disposal. The spectacle began long before the blade actually fell, as convicted prisoners were transported from their cells to the scaffold in open, rickety wooden carts known as charrettes. Handcuffed with their arms bound tightly behind their backs, prisoners sat on simple wooden boards laid across the cart frames, and as the carts rattled and bounced over Paris's uneven cobblestone streets, the constant jolting forced the prisoners' heads to nod helplessly up and down, a horrific sight that caused immense amusement among the mocking crowds lining the roads. During the height of the Reign of Terror, these carts ran continuously, maintaining a grim assembly line capable of executing a dozen individuals in under 15 minutes. Not every spectator at the scaffold was yelling or throwing objects. One of the most famous and unsettling groups of regulars were the tricoteuses, or knitting women, who were originally politically active women that had been banned from attending official assembly debates and redirected their attention to the public executions. They would arrive early, claim prime seating near the foot of the scaffold, and quietly knit socks, caps, and garments while conversing calmly among themselves, becoming infamous symbols of revolutionary cold-bloodedness as their knitting needles clicked away in the shadow of the falling blade. At the center of every execution stood the executioner, a figure treated with a strange mix of celebrity, fear, and fascination, with headsmen like Charles-Henri Sanson becoming household names. Interestingly, executioners often reported feeling less personal guilt than traditional swordsmen or hangmen, because the machine itself did the physical killing while their job was merely maintaining and operating the device. Before stepping up to the plank, the condemned were usually permitted a brief moment for last words. Some, like King Louis XVI, used the moment to maintain their innocence and forgive their captors, while others, like Madame du Barry, broke down in terror, pleading with the executioner for just one more moment of life before the lever was pulled. Although the guillotine was originally promoted as a painless, humane alternative to older execution methods, the reality was undeniably bloody and brutal, with executioners occasionally lifting severed heads by the hair to display them to cheering spectators, and audience members rushing forward with handkerchiefs to soak up the blood as gruesome historical souvenirs. Yet, while some cheered, the graphic nature of the event left deep psychological scars on others, such as philosopher Albert Camus' father, who attended an execution out of curiosity, only to return home traumatized, throwing up, and refusing ever to speak of the horrifying sight again.